Hi, this is Ken. Let me start with the conclusion right away. Last week was not just another Tesla news week. It was the week Tesla quietly crossed a line from talking about the future to actually operating it. And if you're a long-term Tesla investor, this matters far more than short-term price moves. In this video, I'll walk you through what really happened last week, why the market reaction looked muted, and why that may actually be a signal, not a warning. By the end, you'll see why this week could become one of those moments that only makes sense in hindsight. Before we go into the individual news items, we need to start with the market context. On Tuesday, January 20th, I took a step back and looked at Tesla's stock chart very calmly. Prices had pulled back from recent highs. Selling pressure was clearly there. But when you look at volume, something important stands out. There was no panic, no capitulation, no emotional dumping. Even as the price moved lower, it couldn't continue falling. RSI stayed near neutral levels. This was not a market dominated by fear. This was a market pausing, waiting, and that distinction is critical because it frames everything that followed during the week. With that context in mind, let's move to January 21st. On the surface, this looked like a quiet day. No explosive headlines, no dramatic stock reaction. But internally, Tesla was doing something much bigger. What stood out was the consistency of one theme: AI chips, AI training infrastructure, and the vehicles that deploy that intelligence in the real world. Tesla is no longer improving these components separately. They are rebuilding them together as a single system. From the outside, it may look slow, but from a strategic perspective, this is a multi-year reset. Tesla isn't optimizing the next quarter. It's redesigning the foundation for the next phase of autonomy. And this is where a gap opens up between Tesla and the market. The market is focused on the next earnings report. Tesla is focused on the next several years. That mismatch in time horizons explains why the stock didn't move much. Not because nothing happened, but because what happened doesn't fit short-term valuation models. This isn't stagnation, it's misaligned clocks. That brings us to January 22nd, when many owners and investors were asking the same question again. What about HW3? Let's start with reality. HW3 will never perform at the same level as Tesla's latest hardware. That's not a matter of strategy or commitment, it's physics. Compute limits matter. Processing headroom matters. Architectural generations don't magically converge. Acknowledging that upfront is important because it separates realistic expectations from emotional ones. But this is also where the conversation gets interesting. Tesla is not abandoning HW3. Instead, they're rethinking its role. Rather than forcing HW3 to do everything, Tesla is restructuring how intelligence is deployed, splitting tasks, compressing models, changing execution paths. The goal is not parity, the goal is usefulness. HW3 may no longer be the star of the system, but it still plays a meaningful role in supporting the fleet. And that distinction matters, not just for owners, but for investors evaluating Tesla's long-term capital discipline. Up to this point, we've seen three key things. The market was not in fear. Tesla was fully focused on rebuilding its AI foundation, and legacy hardware wasn't discarded. It was repositioned. Now, with that framework in place, the news from the second half of the week starts to look very different. That's where Tesla stops being evaluated as a product company and starts being judged as a system. And that's where last week truly became special. So let's move into the second half of the week. January 23rd and 24th didn't bring flashy stock-moving headlines at first glance, but strategically, these 2 days are what turned last week into something special. This is where Tesla began to be evaluated not as a collection of products, but as a system. On January 23rd, one of the most important shifts happened quietly. FSD started to be recognized by insurance companies. This matters more than many people realize. Insurance is not based on belief or storytelling. It's based on accident rates, probabilities, and hard data. When a third-party insurer decides that driving with FSD carries lower risk than human driving, that's not an opinion. That's a financial judgment. At that moment, FSD stopped being just a feature. It started becoming a risk reduction mechanism. That's a fundamental change in how autonomy is valued. On the same day, the conversation around Robotaxis also evolved. Until now, most discussions focused on whether Robotaxis were technically possible. But on January 23rd, the focus shifted to cost. How much does it cost to operate per mile? That single question changes everything. Once autonomy enters an economic framework, commercialization is no longer theoretical. It becomes inevitable, even if timelines are still uncertain. This was the moment when Robotaxis moved from a technology discussion to a business discussion. At the same time, more cautious voices also appeared. Eventually, profits will be required. Expectations without earnings cannot last forever. That's not bearish, that's reality. Tesla is now in a phase where validation and pressure coexist, and that tension is healthy. Then came January 24th. This was the day when everything Tesla had been building toward suddenly became real. First, the fully autonomous drive from Los Angeles to New York. No human intervention, zero disengagements. Executed under some of the worst winter driving conditions possible. The key insight here is not distance or duration. It's this. The delays during the trip came from human decisions, not from FSD detours, reversals, caution layered on top of a system that was already operating correctly. In other words, without human interference, the system would have arrived faster. That challenges a long-standing assumption that human oversight always improves safety. Then came unsupervised robotaxi operations. No safety driver inside the vehicle, not all at once, not recklessly. Tesla is increasing the ratio gradually while working within regulatory reality. This is classic Tesla, not idealistic promises, not reckless leaps, but controlled deployment. After nearly a decade of discussion, robotaxi operations finally moved from concept to execution. Another critical signal followed. FSD approvals in Europe and China were no longer discussed as vague possibilities. Specific regulators and timelines were mentioned. That means Tesla has moved from explanation to evaluation. This is the administrative phase, and it's unavoidable if autonomy is going to scale globally. Now, let's step back and look at the entire week again. The market wasn't in fear. Tesla doubled down on AI. HW3 wasn't cut. It was reassigned. FSD and Robotaxis began to be evaluated as systems. And finally, those systems proved themselves in the real world. If I had to summarize last week in one sentence, it would be this. Tesla stopped talking about the future and started operating it. For long-term investors, this is where perspective matters. This doesn't mean all risks are gone. Regulation remains complex. Deployment speed will vary. Responsibility frameworks are still evolving. But this is no longer a story that hasn't begun. It's already in motion. And that's why 2026 is shaping up to be a real inflection point for Tesla. Going forward, I'll continue tracking Tesla's developments, not just the headlines, but the structure behind them. Because long-term investing isn't about reacting first, it's about understanding first. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you again in the next weekly recap. And as always, let's enjoy life with Tesla. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to introduce myself. I drive a Tesla Model Y, and at home, I've installed a Tesla Powerwall, so I actually charge my car with solar energy. I truly believe Tesla is shaping the future, and that's why I share the latest news and insights here on this channel. I'm from Japan, but I want to connect with Tesla fans all around the world. That's why I also create an English version of my videos. YouTube now lets you switch the audio into your own language, so you can enjoy it in whatever language you prefer. Most of all, I'd love to connect with Tesla fans everywhere so we can support Tesla together. I also share updates on X, so feel free to follow me there and let's connect. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.